Welcome everyone to my back patio. I'm welcoming you to my patio and also my yard. And the goal of this video is to kind of take you on a, relatively speaking, a spontaneous walk around my property and show you some things in their almost dormant state. They're just waking up from the winter for the most part, and I am kind of like in a naked state. I'm willing to show you what I have going in my backyard and front yard before there's any kind of a spring cleanup, and also before most things are starting to grow. But the reason why I want to do this with all of you is to inspire you to do the same thing at your home. Now, as we all know, for the most part, we're largely cooped up in closer quarters than we might otherwise like, confined to our houses, not allowed back on campus, that kind of thing. And so while that has its downsides, there's also upsides, I think. And so that's the focus of this video and others like it. What could we do now that we otherwise would not be doing because we'd be, in studio or in class or we'd be tied up on campus and activities. And now here we are kind of stuck at our houses, and we have spring coming right upon us. And so how do we turn that into some positive opportunity? So I'm going to show you some things that I've done in my yard, just to kind of show you who I am through my property. And after you watch this video, I'm going to ask you to do something similar, which is go out in your back if you have one, go out in your front, go out around your neighborhood, but do something similar, journalize on it, but use it as a point at which you're going to come back to. Because what's cool about this time period is right now things kind of look largely dead, even though there's a lot of life underneath that stuff. A month from now, my yard, just like probably yours and your neighborhood, are going to look totally different from how things look. So that all said, let me just kind of show you some stuff. I'm big on containers. I'm big on bogs. Some of you are actually from the area close to New Jersey Pine Barrens. That's where this thing came from. I took an old wheelbarrow a long time ago, turned it into like a Jersey bog. Got a few Jersey bog plants. This guy is an Atlantic white cedar. He's a tree, believe it or not, kind of like a bonsai, because he's been growing out of this wheelbarrow now for probably 10 years. And then here's one of my little bog gardens. Guess what we got going over here? There's carnivorous plants in the Pine Barrens. And this is a little bit early, but right in here where my finger is, that's the start of a pitcher plant. And pitcher plants, when they get big, or bigger, they're pretty cool in that they actually trap bugs and eat them because where they are, the soil's not very healthy, so they derive their nutrition from bugs. Over here shows you that strawberries can make it, in a container through the winter. I'm going to be asking you all to create your own fruit or vegetable gardens. This looks dormant over here, although I'm trying to cultivate some acorns in here. But you could see I have a little trellis here, and believe it or not, popping up out of this pretty soon is going to be some grapes. So that's some stuff that I got going here. Let's see, on this side, I once went to a bog in the Adirondacks. By the way, look up bog. It's a really cool kind of a wetland. So when I was in this bog up near Lake Placid, I just took a little bit of helping of sphagnum moss that had a few little baby trees in it, and you have black spruce, and you have this guy coming right back to life. Look closely, see those little buds? That's larch, Larix laricina, and there's also some sheep laurel in there, so this thing's gonna have pink flowers. But for the last 8 or so years, this thing has just been growing in this container. Even when it freezes, it still makes it through the winter, and that's what happens with these bog plants. You want to see some tired looking cactus in containers through the winter? That's how they look, but they're going to spruce right back up with the warm weather. How about this? Another little bog setup. These are my cranberries. I can see more pitcher plant from last year. This will give you sort of a sense, let's see, of what pitcher plants look like. Oh, there's a little bit in here coming up. So look them up online and you'll see how cool they are. Here's last year's pitcher plants, like right over here. All the way down here, if we took this thing apart, we would find digested bugs, believe it or not. And look at all these cranberries. In fact, I think I'm just gonna pick this one over here. I'm not gonna show you, you can hear me crunch this. Yep, that's me eating my cranberry. I grew it this winter. And it's tart, but it's really good. And when there's viruses and stuff around, you can't get enough of those antioxidants from your cranberries. So anyway, let's go see what I got going in my sleepy backyard here. This is a work in progress. This is last year's vegetable garden. Those things over here are pretty cool. Watch this. You can see that's asparagus, believe it or not, and that's going to pop back up. That's a perennial. Everything else in here was like tomatoes and lettuces and stuff. So we're just going to get started, weed, and get our plants back going for the spring and summer. So let's just take a little walk and see what's going on around here. Unfortunately, there's some guy that's deciding to do yard work as I do this, but that's one of the prices of living in the suburbs, which is where I am in Lafayette Hill. This tree started out as a tiny little baby, just like almost every single tree I have on my yard. This is a bald cypress. One thing I just wanted to kind of show you in here is bald cypresses grow in cypress swamps. I have a really wet backyard, so I put this in an area where the yard drains. And what I'm really proud of is over here, I'll zoom in a little bit. That is called a knee, K-N-E-E. And no one is even 100% positive, but why? Oh, there's another one. I see a little one. Cool, we're getting more knees. See, there's the big one, and then next to it is a small one coming up. I think you can make that out, hopefully. But bald cypress is a really cool tree, but in some wet areas, really wet areas, it grows these additional appendages called knees. Some people think that it helps the plant get more oxygen in wetland situations. Other people think that it helps with what do you call it? With stability. I think it has something more to do with oxygen, quite frankly, because I think the wetter the area, the more knees you get. But so this thing looks kind of dormant right now, but it's gonna be so cool come about a month from now. All brand new green needles, soft as can be. You guys want to see what a bagworm looks like? That's the in here something. I can't get it focused for you. Sorry about that. Let's see. But anyway, that's called a bagworm. I'm doing this on my phone. Starting next time, I'm going to have my GoPro on, and I'm going to become an expert at it. Right now, I'm asking you to kind of deal with me. But anyway, that got in there all through the winter is this larva of an insect called a bagworm that's growing there. It rained a lot yesterday. This is my yard after rain. It's wet. I have a lot of contraptions that I've done or had some people do for me on my design, where we kind of like manage water on the property. So what did I do over here? I planted another bog plant called an Atlantic white cedar. This thing also started from a little tiny baby, and it's growing quite well. These are what last year's cones look like that you can see on the. It's a gorgeous tree, and you know, going to the New Jersey pine barrens and the wetlands, this is what you find. You find cedar swamps. They're very much like otherworldly Eden-like places. So let's see what's going on further up. Let me see. By the way, you guys remember we've seen out in the woods, I have lots of red maples on my property, and so this guy's already bloomed. But the cool thing about my red maples like one that's also up here. Look how tall this thing is. It's growing out of my fence that I have to keep cutting. I didn't plant any of these red maples. There's one red maple on my property that I planted. The rest I let grow as seedlings that popped in, or I might have stuck them in, but I didn't even pay for any. Oh, we just missed a bunny. Let's see if we can get him. Let's see, where's he? You see that little thing running? Sorry about that. I would have given you a better bunny shot had I seen him before. So anyway, when I moved into this property in about 15 years ago, there were like no trees back here. I don't want to say no, there was a handful, and then doing what I do, I put a lot of plants in. This is another thing that this thing right here, you could tell that I love the pine barrens. This is a pitch pine that a friend of mine gave me a little tiny floppy seedling of, and it's grown up really nice. Pitch pine is a really interesting tree. In the wild, its cones, as you can see right here, they're heat tolerant. So they generally, in the pine barrens, they want fires to happen, and their cones, when they're new, they stay closed for a few years until there's a fire, which then is what opens up their cones, and they drop their tiny little seeds. So symbolically of the pine barrens, what I chose to do was I bought from a native plant nursery, probably 10 or so years ago, this thing where you see the leaves of, and that's called a blackjack oak. And blackjack oak and pitch pine, they grow hand in hand in the pine barrens. And if there weren't fires in the pine barrens, you would actually have to call them the oak barrens, because you guys hopefully now know that an acorn, is the fruit of an oak. Blackjack oaks make decent sized acorns. An acorn is way heavier than a tiny little seed of a pine. So these, like, hundreds of seeds might come out of these pine cones. Okay. Oh, here's one that hasn't opened yet. That's what they look like when they haven't opened yet. And so if a tiny little seed that doesn't even weigh a gram falls to the ground, and the ground is loaded with leaves and stuff, it's not going to have, the seed's never going to make it to soil where it can, where it can actually like germinate. An oak's acorn, on the other hand, it can make it through that kind of stuff because it's pretty heavy when you think about, the size of most of your acorns. So, but when a fire comes, it burns all the stuff at the ground, and it allows those seeds of the pines to hit and reach the soil. So if you shut down all the fires in the New Jersey pine barrens, in most places they would no longer be called the pine barrens. The oaks would take over. So, but again, I think I'm really big on the pine barrens. It's an awesome spot. Get a load of this tree. This thing was thought to be extinct until the 1940s, and it was discovered in China. It's a dawn redwood. It's a circumboreal tree, which means in the fossil record, you could find it on every continent towards the north. Oh, I think I start to see it budding just about now. So this is also like the bald cypress. It's in the pine family, but both of them are deciduous pine-like plants, meaning they lose their needles. Like if you look down here, you can see some orange in the grass. That's last year's needles. These things right here, they're just tiny, and it's similar to the bald cypress. They both have these needles that turn orange in the in the fall. But get a load of this thing. I planted this out of a little tube. Again, I've been in my house 15 years. This was even after. So this is probably only a 10-year-old tree. Look how beautiful it is already. It's a fast grower, straight stem all the way up. It's a cool plant to get if you're in the market for plants right now. By the way, the sound of the suburbs, I hear blue jays and robins in the background, and cardinals. And unfortunately, I hear like a leaf blower too, as you probably can hear. Hey, this is cool. So this is Hamamelis vernalis. Yeah, not virginiana. So this is called spring witch hazel, and this already flowered. It's from like North Carolina, that area, so it's a little bit south of here where this is native to, but I planted this also from a tiny little shrub, and it's a gorgeous, right now it's a really good looking shrub, and it has this really fragrant scent to it, and it's already done its flowering. So just wander around, and like I said, I'm just kind of showing you what I got, and where I can kind of hang out when I need to just get away and I can't get away too far. So back here, I thought I'd show you, I talked about lesser celandine, taking over the Wissahickon. Look at it over here. Every year in my backyard, if I don't do anything about it, you get more and more of this plant. It's pretty, it's in the buttercup family, and it's an ephemeral, meaning right now it looks really, really green and healthy. By June, it's gonna be gone. So, the reason why I like to throw all this wood fragments in the yard back here is I try to, like, by the way, I didn't do this ahead of time, so we'll be lucky if we see anything. But yeah, I didn't think I'd get that lucky on the first turn. But I tried redback salamanders, which right now are all over the Wissahickon. They like to hang out underneath wood. So let's see, anything under here? You get lucky? Ah, nope. Told you this was spontaneous. I didn't prepare this ahead of time because I wanted it to feel real. I thought about what I would do. I don't want to say I didn't prepare it, but I didn't I didn't like go stake out and find a salamander ahead of time. Let's see. Nah. I know that we have salamanders in our backyard. My daughter saw one earlier, I think last week. And I just, it's exciting when you get something like, like a frog or a salamander in your backyard. It's something that at least makes me real psyched, because the backyard's still not that wild. Oh, there's a nice centipede. If you saw him, there's a piece of him. You can see him. Oh, he's hiding. It's another centipede. That's what centipedes look like. They like hanging out under logs and stuff. Not under here. Let's see. Try a couple more and then we'll, you get the idea. All right. Let me get this wood back down for the next salamander that wants to kind of make it his or her home. So as you can see, it's still, like, we've had this warm weather and stuff, but it's still, my big trees, just probably like yours, you don't see any leaves on them yet. Most of our native trees and shrubs, it's still pretty early. They'll be putting on their vegetation real soon, but just thought we'd try this one over here. Let's see. Nah. But we're getting fooled by this crazy weather. Spring was just a few days ago, and so what's going on is some of the plants woke up early, like our non-natives, like the Asian magnolias and things like that. But here's a nice pin oak hanging down here, and I can't even yet. This is totally alive, and you can't see any. So far its buds are still kind of hidden. Let me show you something over here that is an early bloomer, and it's a native early bloomer. So this plant up here, This is my pussy willow tree. You know what pussy willows look like if you get them like as a flower arrangement. So these bloomed almost a month ago, and now they're all like, you know, the flowers are real thick. But it started out as just those little pussy willow things that you see. And I've planted it. I'll take you down to this area. I planted it in this little wetland garden that I created, which is starting to come alive, as you can see with some of my my shrubs in here, just starting to get buds on them. Pretty cool. So some things are going. If you have a holly on your property like this, that's always green. So, by the way, I'm a culprit of, or whatever you don't call it, of sprawl. Let's go check this guy out. There's the culprit. He's the leaf blower. People in the suburbs have this thing. They don't want to have leaves on their property. Well, let me tell you something. I'm proud. I haven't raked the whole winter. Most of the leaves blow away. There's a bunch that get stuck around the fence. What do you think leaves are? They're free organic material. Why does everybody have to like get leaves off of their property? You could just leave them alone, or if you. Hey, sorry for that interruption, but get this. By the way, that was a phone call came in, and I didn't know how to keep it from blocking my video. So what I decided was I left my video off, and I waited about 15-20 minutes. And would you believe this guy's still going at it? So I want to make a point. As irritating as this sound is, this guy is blowing needles. There's a little pile that he's blown, and it probably took him about 15 minutes. I could have raked it in about like 3 minutes. But my message that I was saying before, leave the leaves. Silence, or you know, these birds again. So he just took off the backpack gasoline powered leaf blower. Think about how much power is used and how much wasted gasoline, given global warming, that he just wasted, while he's taking stuff that's primarily carbon based, and he's like getting it off that lady's lawn instead of just leaving it there, which then would become natural fertilizer for the plants. So go figure, and think about, if you live in the suburbs, about how many people typically like to get every little leaf raked off of their lawn, and then they get the leaves and they put them. What do they do with them? They like bring them to the street and hope that the township takes them, and maybe they go to a mulch pile. But think about it. See my leaves? Leave the leaves. Leave the leaves. I can get them off in the spring, and I can just distribute them somewhere else. Anyway, back to this walk. Actually, look at this. So I'm in my wetland, and here's my wet feet. And a couple points about that. One, I designed a wetland garden a long time ago, because this is an area that really gets like mushy, like you can see, and I'm pretty psyched. You can see my my sedge is coming up already. That's a wetland grass. I mean, a grass look-alike. Remember that liriope we once saw? This is another one of those things. It looks like grass, but it's not. It's called sedge. Just has the same appearance, but it's a very good native wetland plant to have. And you can see all this standing water from the rain that we had. So rather than this just kind of draining off into the street, I have it set up so that this area captures it. And then I have all kinds of plants and stuff in here, and ferns that'll come later that like the wet. And by the way, back to not that you want to like see my feet, but see this? I recommend that you follow Rachel Carson. So when you start reading that book, and she's out with her nephew, and they're barefoot in the moss or the reindeer lichen or whatever it is, and the book that is called The Sense of Wonder. Try going out barefoot a little bit. It's I think it's a cool sensation. You can use your nose for smelling, as we've talked about. If basically in this garden right here, there's about 3 or 4 things, including my beach plum, that are edible. Eat what you can eat. Here's another edible from last year. This is Rus typhina, or staghorn sumac. Like, I could eat these. You can make tea and stuff out of the last year's flowers there. So anyway, but take your shoes off and go out and feel what it feels like. Let's see a few things I got going on in the front. Ooh, this fierce thing over here, that's my cat Poppy. Earlier when we started out, I was going to show you my cat Otis and my dog Molly, but they didn't stay with me, and so I just wanted to get going. See you, Pop. So here's another contrivance that I have for for wet areas. Another it's called a bioswale, and you can see it's gotten invaded by the lesser celandine, but it's also this green stem tree here is box elder maple. I didn't plant it; it came in on its own. I let it go. There's a couple birch trees. They came in from my neighbor's tree. This is river birch. Hear that? River birch. It likes it wet, so it's perfect. So I didn't even have to pay for this tree, and here it is, nice exfoliating bark. This is ostrich fern from last year. You can see it. That's going to pop back up. Did you ever hear of fiddleheads? You can eat them. They're really good in a salad. So I won't eat much. I'm going to let them grow, but you can do that. So I got this neighbor over here. Look at this. Look at all that driveway he has. So this is Dr. Larry, and he told me that this thing over here, my bioswale, wait till you see the other bioswale I have, he thinks it's full of weeds, and he thinks it brings his property value down. But every time there's a hint of snow in the forecast, you know what Larry does? He takes this big rock salt stuff and he throws it out on this huge driveway thing that he has here ahead of time so that it pre-melts the snow, assuming that we even get snow. And he washes his car all the time. And where do you think that soapy water drains? Yep, right down into the Wissahickon Creek eventually. So anyway, get a load of what's going on out front here. Another comment on Dr. Larry in a second too, because see this is way too early. This is my American plum tree. Pretty cool, eh? I'm gonna have nice plums, except if we get a frost, my plums are gonna get cooked before, and I don't mean literally, before they have a chance. It's way too early for my plums to be out, but here they are. They're out and starting to flower. Larry thinks it's ridiculous that I have fruit trees on my front lawn, but he's never had one of my plums. And here's another thing that, oh, there's Otis. Hey, Odie. Here's my, look at Otis. He's like 16 years old. He's just hanging on. His back legs aren't doing too well, but, he likes it out here. This is my peach tree. Again, in bloom too early. But, these peaches are pretty tough, so it'll probably hang on. Now, unlike the peach and the plum is my pear tree, and you can see some pears that I didn't pick last year that are still up there. They're kind of black right now. I'm glad to see that up here, like this is a later bloomer, so you can see the buds of new leaves about to come here, but it hasn't flowered yet, and so we'll see what happens with that. This might look messy, but I don't cut down. So this is basically inspired by Houston Meadow. These are meadow plants. This is even though right now it's in the shade because the sun's starting to go down, these are the kind of grasses and flowers that you see that we saw when we were in the meadow together. I like to leave this stuff up because it provides wildlife habitat through the winter months. But because I have this tree here, and this is a tree that I did not plant, it's a blue Atlas cedar that created this shady area. You can see my shade garden, and now the shade garden is starting to come into life. And one of the earliest native bloomers that you can get in the forest, when you're lucky enough to find them in the forest, are Virginia bluebells. And so get a load of these. These are just up. So here, they're just coming into bloom. You get these nice blues and purples and stuff going. And then you could tell that I got other plants coming, so they're just getting ready to flower. Back there, some more native stuff. So basically I have a lot of native wildflowers in here. and there's something called heuchera that's on the ground there. It's getting ready to it's really just it's just in leaf form right now. Over here you can see some buds. That's going to be celandine poppy, not lesser celandine. This is a native shade plant that that'll have yellow flowers, but not the non-native lesser celandine that we all got a good sense of, just from being out and about. And then I showed you where it's just kind of taken over some spots in my garden. So, but my shade garden has, this is another kind of sedge, like a seersucker sedge, I think it's called, that you can see right in here. That's starting to come up. So, oh, and here's its flowers. So here's the, so this is what a sedge's flowers look like. So see those cool black things, or like those green things with like black tips? They're the flowers of the sedge. So there is life coming up. Here's some more life coming up. You can tell. So spring is totally, popping into my garden. I can't tell you that like how rich this is going to look in about a month. Okay, here's a. Now the more I look, the more I see. Like here, this is going to be Jacob's ladder. A nice purpley flower is going to come into bloom. I have lots of different ferns in here. You're seeing last year's Christmas fern, because that's mostly evergreen. I can show you marginal wood fern, but this is how it looked. That stayed green all winter. But I have some other really cool ferns that are going to be coming up later. Just a word about trees. Like if you think you got some bare spots, get a tree, and it does not have to be big. I'm surrounded by trees. This thing here is a tulip poplar. See that? That was growing underneath my driveway over 10 years ago. I saved it. Even with damaged roots, I put it here. You can even tell it's even like a little bit curved at the bottom. And I transplanted it, and look at it. And then over here, see this? That's a river birch. Believe it or not, that came out of a mug from Pinelands Nursery, which is a native plant nursery. As a giveaway, they were giving out little plants. And so they had these ceramic mugs with their name on it. And I got a river birch. I planted that. I didn't even put deer fencing around it, and it got huge. So if you remember from like one of our first classes, I said, hey, what's this stuff over here? What family is that in? So what's that? What family is that in? Yep, you got it. Pea family. That's called Eastern Redbud. And this is going to have beautiful purple flowers. This is actually like a smaller shade tree. Oh no, Mr. Gas Guzzler is back. I thought we were done with that. But anyway, one other nice thing to kind of show you is some remnants of this shrub over here, which is a witch hazel. It's actually from China. It's non-native, but it's not an invader at all. And it does actually flowers in February. So you still have some, a little bit of its flowers are left on the shrub. So just wanted to give you some other sense before I kind of finish getting you familiar with my backyard. And sorry, I mean front yard right now. Here's what deer like to do in the suburbs. So this is my basswood tree. It is not supposed to have all these different stems, but every year the deer like to rub their antlers against it, and then it damages it, but it doesn't die. So look at that. It wants to be a big trunk, but this just happened recently. I thought it was done for I thought it made it through the winter relatively unscathed, but I was wrong. The tree's still going to do okay. Same thing once happened to my cucumber magnolia over here. That's why that has 3. It kept getting beaten up by deer, but now it's growing up as like 3 central leaders all together. And believe it or not, this tree could get to become like 100 feet tall. It could be quite a large tree. There's another dawn redwood that it also started out as a little tiny tree. Now, this is a tree that I transplanted from my in-laws' house that I found this as a baby in Otis, Massachusetts. And it's been growing really, really well. It's the state tree of Pennsylvania that we see doing not so well in the Wissahickon. It's called the Eastern Hemlock or the Canada Hemlock. But I just saw this earlier today for the first time. And now, I think I had told you guys, it gets something called, like I thought my tree wasn't getting it, but this has woolly adelgid beetle larvae on it. And that's what's killing the trees. So if you see this white stuff, I'm really, really sad because now my tree has it. And so, you know, I'm not a chemical sprayer, so I'm not gonna really do anything about it, but I'm gonna start losing this tree. And for whatever reason, the beetle lays its eggs on the lower branches. Think about when we were in the Wissahickon and I showed you those trees, they were still alive at the top, but they were not, but they were dead at the base. And so over here, this is like freshly laid larvae that are now, once they hatch out, they're going to eat the needles off of this tree. So yet at the top, you don't see any right now. So that's what's going on here. Pretty sad stuff. But that's, you know, between climate change and invasive pests, Eastern Hemlock is really a stressed tree. So last thing I wanted to kind of give you a sense of is this thing over here is something I'm actually really, really proud of. It's my big bioswale. So when I moved into this property 15 years ago, I drained half of the Wissahickon watershed through this side here between my next door neighbor and me. And it was a real mess. And so what I did was I rebuilt this area, and I decided to take a stream bank approach. And I loaded it up with plants with the idea that roots would hopefully hold it together. And so I want to show you what the difference between one side and another. Go take a look at this. So my side is on the left. My neighbor, her side is on the right. You're going to see a lot of erosion. See how much erosion you see on my side versus her side. Her guys who cut, you know, her nice suburban lawn, what they do is they go right up to the bioswale. They mow everything and they mow right over it. See the water coming out of this thing? And some's coming out of the curb right here. Well, yesterday this would have been flowing strong because it can only suck so much up, but it directs a lot down. So look at so I, in the early going, put a variety of trees and plants and stuff here. In fact, this is hibiscus, which is another flower that's edible. That's last year's flower heads. It's a gorgeous pink and white, big, huge flower that you get in wetlands. Plant's doing quite well. But look at this erosion over here. So on my side, there's a lot of trees here that came in, which are red maple. When I started this, I had a lot of meadow plants, because remember how I told you about they were deep rooted? But what happens is, and some of them are still left, but trees started coming in because they wanted to. That's why, because there's a lot of red maples around here, the seeds blew in. So red maples love wet areas. They do well on stream banks. So I just kind of let them be. So look at what's happened over the years. Look at the erosion that you got on the right side, where there's all you have holding things together. And this is like a cross section. Look how deep rooted grass is. I'm talking about turf grass, not native grasses like we saw. You don't see any roots, right? So how can those roots do any good to hold together what's going on here? So, and also look at what's happening. I have my one of my plants that you can see over here, because it could take shade and sun. Let me show you that. That is called Penstemon digitalis. I forget what the common name is, but see the reddish leaves? It's all over in here. Okay, so I planted that a long time ago and it spread on its own. Here it is on my neighbor's lawn. It wants to come up. But see this? This is her side. It's growing out of the moss. it has roots that go down to be about 3 feet. But what do you think's going to happen in a few weeks when her grass starts growing? The lawnmower guys are going to come out, and they're going to cut it all down. And so that's what's happening here. So, you know, my side's holding together, hers isn't, but it shows you what you can do with native plants. This is a big problem in the suburbs, just like in the Wissahickon. See the deer tracks? So they've actually made a little deer path through my swale. And wouldn't you know it, over there's that basswood tree with the deer damage. So, you know, deer love suburbs. We make it so convenient for them to eat everything in sight, and they feel safe because they can see through. So that's what you have going. But anyway, is right now this has, you know, still a pretty much a look of dormancy. You got my red maples that have bloomed already because they're early bloomers, as we now know. But the oaks in here and the shrubs, some are just starting to come to life. Like if I look closely over here, but this is going to be a wall of green. It holds together my swale. It sucks up a lot of water. Let me show you another thing that happens. Here's how plants react to water. Plants are like natural engineers. So check this out. So this is a pin oak up here. It is actually starting to bloom out. Nope, I'm sorry about that. It's not a pin oak. It's another red maple. But look at what the red maple has done. It's holding itself up in the swale. So again, I never planted this. This came in on its own, and I just let it go. And look at that. So it actually, it's called buttressing. So it's wet on the downside of it, and it's giving itself extra support. I mean, plants are kind of ingenious when you think about it. Down here, you got last year's sensitive fern. Like this is the spores right here of sensitive fern. It's another wetland plant. It likes it could take shade or sun. So you got all this. Believe it or not, there's a ton of life here. Here's actually some flowers that are already starting to come from this native viburnum, I believe it is. And again, this is a shrub that was tiny. All these shrubs over here, I bought them, and they were like in gallon or 2 gallon containers. So, you know, my advice to you is, if you see a tree, buy it and plant it. And then up here, this is going to kind of make us come full circle. There's in the background, up tall, is my bald cypress, and this is where so part of my yard drains down to this swale. Same thing with my neighbor. I ended up for free draining her yard, and then you saw the erosion that it causes down. Guess what tree this is? It still holds. It's a semi-evergreen. So these leaves lasted through the winter. It's going to leaf out much more. It's a swamp magnolia. You think that's appropriate for swampy conditions like this? You bet. And so, you know, so that's, and look here we are. I didn't even see this. I told you this is spontaneous. I didn't realize, look at all the knees on my neighbor's yard. Here's a knee. Here's a knee. Here's a knee. See all the wet? So that idea that maybe the knee, there's another one by the fence. There's another one over there. And here's a nice size knee, 2 nice size knees. Check this out, man. Over here, get a nice close up of that. And here, so, you know, my guess is these knees, they're growing on the downside where it's also the wet side. You can see the saturated soil conditions, and they're helping, I believe, to hold, you know, to support this tree under really wet conditions. So let me take advantage of the quiet, because you know it's going to come back. Oh, and one other thing that's showing you that spring's coming a little bit too early is I'm not really big on pulling weeds out. I kind of let things go and do their thing. And if you look up here, that's called a calorie pear tree. It is an invasive. I did not plant it. Birds eat the little pears and then they poop them out elsewhere, and the seeds take hold all over. So it's pretty. It should not yet be in flower in March. Definitely, you know, later in April. But it kind of joined my bioswale So I just kind of leave it there. There's a good chance anyway that this red maple over here, which is pretty tall, and then over here, we're on the backside of my tulip poplar, and then over here is my river birch, and here's another oak, I believe, coming up. Actually, it looks like it's a younger maple again. But by the time these trees grow up, I think they'll probably shade out the pear tree. So I don't think he has long to live. That all said, now that I've kind of shared with you, you know, what my yard setup is and my patio setup, you know, my advice to you is to go do something similar. And then read your Rachel Carson book. There's wonder everywhere. There's wonder literally on the curbside. If you get a little 10 times magnifying glass, and you look at your dandelions, you're going to see little things crawling on your dandelions. You're going to see little hairs growing on leaves and stuff that you never were aware of. And so, you know, take advantage of the fact that you are kind of stuck, probably most likely, you know, in a spot at home, and take yourself outside and really start getting to know things that you might not otherwise have gotten to know if you were in the hubbub of spring semester at school, doing all the demands that you have there. So that's, you know, that's what I'm advising you to do. See the wonder everywhere. It's really, really, really cool. And you're gonna, you know, there's just the more you look, the more you'll see, and meaning the more you'll discover. You know, like last year's fragments of my bald-faced hornet nest up there, which you know, fell apart over the winter. You know, so that's the deal. So go enjoy your own little surroundings, see what you have, pull your journal out, journalize about it, sketch about it, photograph some of the stuff, and then for the next few weeks, keep going out and see what you see while you go out. Watch the changes, watch the trees coming to life, watch the flowers coming to life, see what animals you see. If you see a rock or a piece of wood, lift it up, see what's underneath. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that, and look forward to our next video.